Benchwarmers podcast. We are without Andrew Lara this week as he had some family stuff to do. I'm Casey Coggins here with Alvin Hebert.
It is Friday.
It is Friday, so we're recording a little later this week than we normally do. Things come up, but we had a big slate of sporting events that happened this past week. Round 1 of the MLB is done. I got the Stros Yankees Game 1 ALCS on the TV right now. We're keeping updated with all that. You know, another full week of NFL games behind us and ahead of us. Basketball season right around the corner. Spurs just finished up their preseason schedule, beating the Rockets tonight. So lots going on. But really for this one, I just want to stick with the first round of the baseball playoffs, and then we'll go into our weekly hot and not, and then we'll recap last week's bold predictions, and then we'll have another couple bold predictions for this upcoming week. So, I mean, Alvin, let's start with the first round of the playoffs. What was your initial reaction?
I mean, it was pretty hype. The first round, the Cubs Nats, that was a pretty hype game.
I know. I was pretty disappointed that my bold prediction from last week, the Cubs sweeping the Nats, got blown up by Game 2's blown lead in the 8th inning.
I was thinking in Game 2, I was all like, is this like Nostradamus over here? Like,
yeah,
I had it going.
I was like 4 outs away, because they did it all with 2 outs in the 8th. I was 4 outs away from having the Cubs 2 games up, going home for Game 3 with Jose Quintana, who just shut down the Nationals that game.
I just think that series went 3-2. I think that was the most exciting series, just because the way the last game ended, too. It was back to back, there was back and forth.
Yeah. The last game, I was saying, it wasn't the best game I've ever watched. I've been watching baseball for a while, and I was watching Game 7 of the World Series last year, and watched plenty of World Series and playoff baseball games. It wasn't the best game, that's for sure, but it might be the wackiest game that I've ever seen, because there was just back and forth, and the 5th inning was the first time that there was like a walk, a hit batter, a strikeout, passed ball, got a runner getting on first, an error on the catcher. Like, it just was it was zany.
Yeah, it was a big mess on that one, but I don't know, it just added more flair to the series, because pretty much the Nats had it, and then all of a sudden they jump on Max Scherzer, and then they were just able to hold on, because it looked like the Nats was looking like to make another.
I was getting really nervous because
I bet you was. You was probably like,
oh man, I had my tennis league, and I got home. I was driving home when the 5th inning was going on, so I'm sitting in the driver's seat driving home, and I hear hit batter and strike out, and ball gets away, and I'm like hands in the air, like letting go of the steering wheel, just going nuts in the car. And then I get home to watch the end of the inning, and they ended up, I think, putting up 4 or 5 runs.
They put up
5 runs. They went up 6-4 in that inning, and then the rest of the game was just back and forth, where it was the Cubs would put up another run. I think they ended up going up 8-4, and then the Nats got it to 8-7, and then the Cubs added on a run, and then the Nats added on a run, and then you have Wade Davis getting put into the game for a 7-out save. He got put in.
This was his longest save of the season, I think.
It was the most he's pitched in a game since he was a starting pitcher. It was the first time that he's ever gotten a save longer than an inning. It was nuts. I mean, I'm super excited the Cubs won. Keeps my Cubs repeating hopes alive. But that series, it was back and forth, and the pitching that series was unreal. Everything was on. Like, those are two of the best offenses in the league, and they were just shut down. Other than a couple eighth innings, and then the game 5 for both teams, there were a combined, I think, 20 or so runs in games 1 through 4, and then game 5 had 17 combined runs.
That Strasburg game also.
Yeah, that was.
He was just.
I mean, watching that game, and I'm sitting on the couch watching the game. I watch every pitch, and I'm not a professional baseball player. I've played a lot of baseball, but I'm not these guys trying to hit 95, 96, and then trying to hit an 86 mile an hour changeup
in the dirt.
But I think he threw 20 changeups, and he got swings and misses on like 15 of them. And Chris Bryant struck out 4 times on changeups, all on changeups, every single one that he struck out. So at some point, when you're that high of quality baseball player, shouldn't you just try to sit, change, and catch up to a fastball and just foul the fastballs off until you finally get that changeup?
Like hit it on the sweet spot.
And so I don't know if they were sitting change, and he was just throwing them good enough to where they were swinging over it, but it was a mess. The Cubs could not figure out Strasburg games 1 and 4. And I think they caught a lucky break. There were some controversial plays. I hate that they have that replay rule where if you're sliding and you beat the tag, but your just momentum carries you off the bag a little bit, and the guy still has the tag on, they can replay that. I feel like that kind of changes the game a little bit. It's the right call, and it's the right thing to do, but the Nationals pretty much lost the game on that play.
Yeah. Well, they still lost the series themselves because it was there for them to take it, win it, but that Joe Madden team, man, they're
resilient. And I've been watching the Cubs since I was 8 years old, and for when I really fully understood the game of baseball, and I would watch them, and I would watch teams like the Cardinals play, or Joe Madden's Tampa Bay Rays back in the day, and I would watch some of these other teams, even like the 2015 Royals. They always had that knack for getting the hit when it was needed, and they had that never say die attitude, and it was like even if they were down 10 runs in the top of the 9th, you could tell that they believed that they would get 11 runs.
Yeah.
And the Cubs, for the longest time, never had that feeling. It was always the opposite. It was always, the Cubs are up by 5 in the 9th inning. How are they going to lose this game? And it looked like the players thought that too. But from 2 years ago, making the NLCS and getting swept by the Mets, that team and last year's championship team and this year's team all have the same core players. Some pieces were added, but they have that, they got that leadership in them, and that never say die attitude, and just keeping the line moving when they need to. And it's like baseball teams that do that, like the Astros this year, I think have a lot of that in them, because that happened to them a couple years ago against Toronto, where Toronto had that never say die. They were going to fight and claw until the Astros got that final out in that final game. And the Astros, I think, learned from that, just like the Cubs had learned from it.
Well, if you want your Cubs to repeat, the pitching is definitely going to have to be more on point.
The relief pitching. Because in the 8th inning, they had one of the worst 8th inning ERAs in all of baseball throughout the regular season and the postseason. So they need to figure out the relief pitching. Wade Davis, he's going to shut it down. 9th inning, you got locked. It's that 7th inning and that 8th inning that they need to really figure it out because...
Or even the 6th inning if you can't...
Yeah, if the starting pitcher can't make it through 6, you're probably not going to need much relief pitching against the Dodgers because they were probably up by 4 or 5 runs.
Yeah,
because if
Dodgers are hot right now.
They sure are. We were talking about it, and I think Andrew was the one who picked them to win the World Series this year, and my gut said that they were going to, but my head and heart was still leaning Cubs. But the Dodgers, they have the best pitcher in the game, and he has a lot to prove, and that whole team has a lot to prove, especially playing the Cubs again.
Especially with their history within the playoffs recently about they got the choke stigma on Kershaw, and even though they come in as the better team, they always just end up losing. So they've been having a lot to prove, but
they handled the Diamondbacks pretty easily, and a lot of
people was thinking that the Diamondbacks could have gave them some fits, or even could have took the series.
They had starting pitching was an issue for the Dodgers. For the Diamondbacks against the Dodgers. And you have the Diamondbacks batters were the ones that were going to need to keep them in there. AJ Pollock and Paul Goldschmidt and JD Martinez. And I didn't get to watch Game 3. I think I was out doing something that night. I got home and found out the Dodgers had swept them, but it was kind of I felt like that was just kind of a known fact that was going to happen.
It was just like,
after the first 2 games, you kind of had the sense that the Dodgers were going to win that series, whether it was in 3 or 4, it was just going to happen. But going with another dominant team in the first round, the Astros, they, other than Game 3 where their pitching kind of let them down. Like I watched a little bit of that game and it was 3-0, and then all of a sudden I went back to the game and it was like 8-3, and the Red Sox just put a whooping on them that game. Yeah, Other than that, the Astros seemed to handle their business, especially games 1 and 2. The Astros bats are...
Yeah, because we was talking about Jose Altuve before we started. 3 home runs, 4 RBIs.
Yeah.
And 4 walks on top of that.
He's the AL MVP. He's going to win the AL MVP. His numbers are insane. The type of person he is, if you've watched his interviews and if you've followed his career, the character he has, the leadership on that team he has, he is the Anthony Rizzo of that team. He's still young. He's not like he's an old player. He's not like
in his mid-20s.
I think he's 27. He's led all of majors, not just the American League. He's led all of majors in hits for the last 4 seasons. The guy's 5'5". His bat is half the size of him. And he's just, it's incredible watching his approach. Yeah, it's like him and George Springer and Carlos Correa. They have a lot going for them, and they dominated the Red Sox. The only person that really had an answer for the Astros for the Red Sox was David Price, which is really kind of weird to say because he got put into the relief role because he couldn't start for them. He had a pretty bad season starting.
Yeah, he had a pretty horrible season to his standards, to where they had to switch him to come out from the bullpen.
And Chris Sale, I think in game 1 gave up 2 home
Chris Sale
runs.
got lit up.
Yeah. And I mean, he's had his issues with giving up home runs. I think he gave up like 20 or so during the regular season. But it was just
like 20, and then you're talking about like over 180 something games. Like that's not.
I mean, he gave up 20 home runs and like 230 innings for a guy who strikes out so much. That's just how baseball's become with its, home runs and strikeouts. You're going to see strikeout numbers inflate. You're going to see home runs inflate. That's just how...
He set the record at one point, right, for the most strikeouts in a year?
I don't know if he did that, but I know he might have broken the Red Sox record for strikeouts in a season, but he's a definite strikeout pitcher. And he had
a pretty beat season this year.
I mean, he came in relief in Game 4 and gave up a home run, and it was ugly for the Red Sox. And on the opposite end, the evil empire lives another day because somehow, some way, they lose the first 2 to the Indians, and it looks like it's just going to be like, okay, Indians are going to walk through and play the Astros, best team in baseball, riding on their hot streak.
But it's like we said, they peaked too early on when they had that massive win streak.
Yeah, it's kind of Corey Kluber could not get through games. He had a terrible series.
Even their hitting was horrible. They batted 171 as a team. Francisco Lindor went 2 for 18. Jose Ramirez went 2 for 20. Like,
yeah, they were,
and those are the all stars on the team. Like,
they had a weird kind of fading out there.
Like you enter like way high, and
then
like,
Game 5, Game 5, you're like, okay, well, Game 5 in Cleveland, they're gonna have everybody ready to roll, and Didi Gregorius kind of silenced it, and then in the 9th inning, I think it was, they gave up 2 more runs on like a walk, and Jacoby Ellsbury might have had the best at bat in the playoffs with a 12 pitch at bat where he was laying off pretty good pitches.
I think,
and he fought off some fastballs.
Brett Gardner too against Cody Allen. It was Brett. You're talking about that one, right?
Yeah, Brett Gardner.
Yeah, it was Brett Gardner. Yeah,
not Jacoby Ellsbury.
It was like 12
They're
pitches.
I thought they were like the same guy.
Essentially,
same style of play. They're starting off the league championship series tonight. Going into the 9th, Astros up 2-0.
2-0.
The Cubs Dodgers start tomorrow, and so it'll be interesting. I mean, baseball playoffs are some of the most exciting sporting events you can watch, and as for that, let's get on to our little think pieces of who the hot of the week is, who the not of the week is. Alvin, go ahead. Who's your hot? Who's flaming?
My hot is going to be the Stros.
Just as a team?
As a whole, yeah. I mean, because I can't just say Jose Altuve.
Because I have Jose Altuve. Because, I mean, as good as the whole team was...
Yeah, I mean...
I think Jose Altuve definitely is the guy that, you alluded to it. He's the catalyst. He's the leader.
He's going to be MVP.
Yeah, he's the guy, and 3 home runs, 4 RBIs.
Was 4 walks too on top of that. Like 4 walks. Like he doesn't strike out.
I think you said he was 8 for 15.
Yeah, 8 for 15.
Hit over 500. 4 walks. He allows other players to get RBIs, and he can steal bases. He's a surefire play at second base. He doesn't make mistakes. And his round 1 ALDS against the Red Sox was as good as any you'll see.
Oh yeah, and then you had Didi Gregorius too. That had pretty.
He's a good honorable mention.
Yeah,
but
I give him the honorable mention.
He had a good nice one game.
But as a team, for my hot, it will be the Stros.
Yeah. So I think we're both there because I just put Jose Altuve. And then who did you put as the not who stunk it up last week?
It's a toss-up from 2 actually, because you got the horrible New York Football Giants. like everything that could go wrong with them this season is going wrong right now.
They might be drafting a Eli Manning's
replacement. Yeah, exactly. And like when you got the Browns that looks like they're playing better than you. Like the Browns are in games, and then the Giants are in games also, but then now you lose OBJ.
The half the team is hurt. And
yeah, like you was alluding to earlier, their injured report list is like, I don't know.
Yeah, their top 3 receivers, their top 2 running backs. There's one of their starting cornerbacks. He's on like a hiatus. I think he's suspended for the game.
Oh yeah, Rogers Cromartie just straight up disappeared on that.
Their offensive line might be the worst in football. It might even be worse than the Seahawks, and it's pretty ugly for the Giants. So
yeah, so that's why I said it's a toss-up. It might be a double whammy for this time, because then you got the Indians. I got the reverse swept on by the Yankees, and I believe it was Jose Ramirez that tweeted during the last game or before the last game where, you know, the Indians are confident to win it in Yankee Stadium or whatever because they own it this year or whatever. It says cupcake, and then.
And yeah, those are two good choices because man, Indians, they just fell apart at the seams, and the Giants have been apart for the last year and a half. Right. It's been ugly. So yeah, both of those teams had bad weeks, and for the Giants, his bad week has been 5 weeks in a row and going on to 6 because I think they play the Broncos.
They just remind me of the kid from Hey Arnold, the one that was born on Friday the 13th. Just have bad luck all the way following him all over the place. Yeah. Like that's just the New York Giants right now. It's just for 5 weeks straight, it's just something.
And then now you're out 5 of your best offensive weapons with a terrible offensive line, and you go up against the best defense in football.
They might as well just tank the rest of the season and just
0-16. Here we come.
Yeah, and you get one of those top quarterback prospects that are coming out.
So I mean, I'm in the belief that, you know, they're talking about the Browns head coach Hugh Jackson kicking himself for trading everything for Carson Wentz and seeing how bad his team looks. And I think he made the right move because you don't know how good Carson Wentz is going to be because he was a prototypical quarterback coming out of South Dakota State, North Dakota State, one of the Dakota states.
Yeah, somewhere out there.
The Bisons up there. And you get a lot of picks and you get more players. And the Browns didn't need one player. The Browns don't need a quarterback because, yeah, you can have a quarterback, but that doesn't always guarantee you wins because if he can't throw the ball, Eli Manning is a 2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback, and he's at least, I think, 500 in his career. And I'd have to check that. I have no idea.
Yeah,
but
I'm all like,
I think he's right. I think he was right around 500 as a quarterback. So you can have a good quarterback and not win because you don't have the players around them, or you can have a mediocre quarterback, a just good enough quarterback, but have super explosive weapons around him, have a great defense, have a run game, and surround and operate to try to hide the weaknesses of your quarterback.
Are we talking about Trent Dilfer here in the Ravens?
Essentially, yes. But so, I'm in the belief that Russell Wilson is a very good quarterback for what he needs to do. But when they won the Super Bowl a few years ago, I wrote a piece on how I think teams need to build for getting a quarterback and not build around a quarterback. Because Russell Wilson was 15th in yards, 15th in touchdowns, 15th in quarterback rating. He was middle of the road quarterback. Won a Super Bowl. Middle of the road quarterback won a Super Bowl. Because number one defense, Marshawn Lynch in a top 10 running game. And you need a quarterback
also,
that
he wasn't making the mistakes for them to lose the game.
You just need him to not make the mistakes. And so that's why you see Dak Prescott. You see him with Ezekiel Elliott, the offensive line, the defense, the time of possessions. You adapt to the quarterback. Then when he has to throw the ball 50 times, you get blown out 41-17 or 42-17. You don't want a guy like Dak throwing the ball all over the place. Look at Jacksonville. Blake Bortles. Not a very good quarterback. It's obvious he's not a very good quarterback. But their defense, Leonard Fournette, they have enough around him to allow him to say, just don't do things that are stupid. Don't
make that
don't
interception.
do things to the detriment.
Yeah.
So for the Giants, I feel like if you get the number one pick and you have a team like the Browns or like the 49ers or like the Jets would be a good team because they're winning with Josh McCown right now, and they have some pieces, or there are some teams that have some pieces in place that all they need is a quarterback now. The Cardinals would be perfect for Sam Darnold. Trade that number one pick. Go and get some pieces. Go and get more draft picks and draft more players because you obviously need offensive line help. You obviously need some receiving help outside of OBJ. You obviously need a running back. Why not get 4 or 5 draft picks and build it up? The Los Angeles Rams traded the number 2 pick to the Redskins so the Redskins could take Robert Griffin. And the Rams hit on almost all of those picks, and look at the Rams now. They have a great front seven on defense.
I think that was the year they drafted Laurinaitis, right?
James Laurinaitis. Yeah. They got a lot of picks, which allowed to build depth, which allows you to play guys less snaps, which keeps them fresh, and it just changes your team. So I'm the believer that yes, you do need a quarterback that won't hurt you. Alex Smith, look at what he's doing with the Chiefs, and look at what he's done for the past 5 years.
He's been doing that since he got in the league with the Niners.
I mean, he didn't do it when he got in the league. He started doing it when he got Jim Harbaugh, because his first 7 seasons he had 7 different offensive coordinators. He had 7 different coaches. His first 7 seasons was just travesty for a quarterback. And then Jim Harbaugh comes in and he rights the ship. He says, all right, this is what you can do. This is what you can't do. Let's focus on the things you can do. Let's throw away the things you can't do. You can't throw the ball downfield. You can't. You throw the ball downfield, you throw an interception. So let's game manage. Let's run these little read options. Let's get Frank Gore going. Let's get a great defense. Let's get speed guys on the outside that we can throw 5-yard routes to.
He built that defense for the Niners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look what they did. They went to an NFC Championship game and lost. The next year, he gets concussed later in the season, and Colin Kaepernick comes in, blows up against the Packers, and Alex Smith is out of a job, goes to Kansas City. Who's his coach? Andy Reid, who they were showing last night has a just tremendous coaching tree. And Alex Smith has just blown up since then because Andy Reid knows, all right, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. Let's build around it. And that's what the Giants need to do. They need to just build. Eli still has probably 3 years left in the league.
It's going to be with another team, though. He's not going to end it with the Giants. Not after this year. I don't know. I don't see it.
I can see them drafting a quarterback and getting rid of Eli, but I think that would be a mistake. That's just me. So another long tangent conversation for y'all to listen to. But your Knots, Giants, Indians dropped a stink bomb. My Knot, keeping it close to home in Chicago. Carl Edwards Jr., you were my Knot player of the week because I got to watch you just completely bomb. You had a couple good outings. The Game 3 outing, tremendous. You came in and pitched 1 inning and you got all 3 guys out. Congratulations, you did your job. Game 2, you could not throw a strike. And when you did throw a strike, you pretty much underhand tossed Bryce Harper a game-tying home run, blowing my pick of the Cubs sweeping the Nationals.
So it was a little bit of a salty pick.
I'm very salty about it. Game 4, I understand. You come in and it's raining. It's hard to grip the baseball. You throw 12 balls, 4 strikes. Then you give up a run, and then they call on Wade Davis, who comes in with the bases loaded and gives up a grand slam. And then in Game 5, you get called in to play again. And I know the stats. I've seen the stats. Carl Edwards Jr. pitching with 0 days rest is not good. Your numbers are not good on 0 days rest. You cannot pitch back-to-back days. You need time off. Look at Game 1. You come in. You pitched all 5 games. You're the first pitcher to pitch all 5 games of the division series in MLB history. First one to pitch in all 5 games.
So you don't kind of put that blame on Joe Madden?
Oh, he absolutely deserves it.
So it was like a double whammy too, like both y'all at the same time get this.
But you're a pitcher. In Game 2, you're up 2. You don't need to. You don't want to give up a home run. You just need to throw strikes. You're a professional pitcher. Yes, I know you don't want to throw a fastball down the middle to Bryce Harper, but you trying to throw it around the corners, you were all over the place. And then you throw a hanging curve, just like a get-me-over curveball, to Bryce Harper with a runner on. It was just bad execution. And yes, Joe Madden gets some blame because the numbers say Carl Edwards cannot pitch on 0 days rest. Look at Game 1. Comes in, shuts down the door, gives up no runs. Game 3, having the day off in between 2 and 3, comes in, 1, 2, 3 inning, goes off the field with as much emotion as you'll ever see from that guy. Game 2, 0 days rest, gives up the 2 runs. Game 4 on 0 days rest, gives up 3 runs. And then Game 5 on 0 days rest, he gets 1 batter, walks him, gets pulled. And that's when Wade Davis had to come in for the 7-out save. Yeah. Because it's like, all right, we tried with you, Carl. We tried to let you pitch. You got 1 batter, you walked him, you're out. You're my not player of the week. But I still believe in you because the Cubs are going to need you going forward because you are dynamite. You have a great fastball and your curveball bites when you're throwing it right. So, just Joe Madden needs to give you rest. Go Cubs. So, going on into recapping our last week bold predictions.
You didn't get a hot.
I did the Jose Altuve.
That was okay when
I brought it up with you.
That's right.
So last week's bold predictions, I've already ranted about mine. Cubs, I picked a sweep. I thought they were well on their way. Blew it in game 2. Alvin, you went wishy-washy with Mitch Trubisky just looking like a competent quarterback. Not having a great game, not having anything just like spectacular, not even winning the game. You just said he was going to have a regular, moderate...
I said he wasn't going to look bad.
And if you look at the numbers...
I did say that he was going to have about 200-something yards with 2 touchdowns. He had 119, 1 touchdown, and then 1 interception. But he also had that play where he put the Bears up top with the 2-point conversion.
Oh, yeah. He had like, it's... Watching that game, like, you look at these numbers, and I pulled them up, and the number I saw on ESPN was 128 yards. But he was 12 of 25, so under 50%. 128 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a QBR of 11.
Yeah.
It was, and you look at those numbers and it's like, man, you're bad. But you're playing the Vikings, who have a top 5 defense in the league.
Oh, that whole game just started off bad, though.
And the safety, and it was just an ugly game.
Sam Bradford got hurt again.
Yeah, it was bad.
But you saw the Vikings, they looked different with Case Keenum when he came in.
Yeah, because he could move. Sam Bradford couldn't. But, yeah, Trubisky, he looked... Like, watching the game, you're like, all right, yeah, he looks like he's going to be their quarterback going forward. You see him make some plays, and he made some plays, and, his numbers aren't good. He had a bad game as far as just numbers go, but he definitely showed signs of being a starting quarterback and for the long haul for them, and they definitely needed to get Mike Glennon out of there.
Yeah, that's what the numbers doesn't correlate with his performance, because he did look good, and he didn't do anything. Like I said, he wasn't going to do anything that was going to cost them to lose them the game. Even though he did have the 1 interception, but he still did the 2-point conversion to get them up top. The defense just couldn't hold to keep them outside of field goal range to go up and end up beating them. But I definitely think it's going to be a building block for him next week. I think throughout the season, the rest of the season, it's going to gradually be better. His numbers are going to be better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I believe that. For Andrew, who is not here, he went with Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson kind of inflated his stats a little bit towards the end of that game. That game was out of hand. Chiefs were definitely
Chiefs
winning.
was smashing that.
Yeah, so especially, and then they decide to throw. He throws a touchdown pass with no time left just to make it a 1-score game. And
see, I want to say this though. You guys were clowning on me about my Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah,
thing,
and I was.
But he picked the most cop-out one of all time with saying Deshaun Watson. Like, that was the most.
But see, that's the thing, because he was saying that Deshaun Watson against the Chiefs was going to put up big numbers. I think he was saying over 300 yards and over 3 touchdowns, and he even went to. We pushed him over the edge a little bit, saying that the Texans were going to beat the Chiefs, I believe. But he did say he did go a little bolder. Like, you went wishy-washy because you said Trubisky was going to look all right. He looked like he was going to be what we're saying. He looks like he's going to be a future.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't say, all right, Trubisky's going to go up his first game.
No, I didn't say. I said he was going to look good. I said he was going to play good. He's not going to play bad. And I said that he wasn't going to do anything to lose the game. But I said he was going to play good.
Okay.
Which he did.
He played average. And it's really tough saying that he played average looking at his numbers. And there's a lot of people who are like, man, his numbers sucked. And Deshaun Watson's numbers are great. But they both lost.
But if you watch the games, and
it's that, and I hate to refer to this guy because he went from being such a good person to listen to on sports to now just being a shock jock. But Skip Bayless is the biggest fan of the eye test that I've listened to on air. He loves the eye test.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, oh, Tim Tebow's not going to blow you away with numbers, but look at the eye test. Like, he's a winner. And so watching the game...
He's all about the intangibles.
Trubisky looked better than the numbers showed. Deshaun looked like the numbers show. But people were going to see, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, QBR 94.8. Yeah, but that fails to mention the fact that, I mean, yes, he had to do that because the Texans defense lost Merciless, lost J.J. Watt. They were already not playing that well as a team. And so he needed these numbers to even keep them close.
But he's going to have these numbers just to keep them close in games.
Yeah, he's definitely taken on that role of being the guy in Houston on offense, and he's living up to the Dabo Swinney praise, and they have a star, and we've said it for weeks. Deshaun Watson, he
should have started week 1 from the gate.
He should have, but he didn't. But now he is, and he will going forward. So that was last week's bold predictions. This week we only have the 2. Me and you, Alvin. I'll go first. And man, we were talking about this, and it was tough to try to figure out like what a bold prediction. Because I want to make a bold prediction that yes, it's bold. It's like holy shit. But it's something that I like actually believe is going to be something that happens.
And it can't be like a cop out. It can't be like a sure bet fire thing. Get like a bold prediction is something that's.
It can't be Alabama beats Arkansas. You can't
that's not a bold prediction.
And your bold prediction can't be Arkansas beats Alabama because I don't believe that's going to happen. Like
nobody in the world believes that's going to happen.
Alabama's favored by 31 points. So it's tough to try to find these bold predictions for this week because
and plus there's not a lot of big
we could have
big matchups going on.
Yeah, we have the baseball playoffs, but it's hard to try to single out something like I could have said Kershaw no hits the Cubs. But I wouldn't believe that, and I wouldn't hope that, and I wouldn't want that for the Cubs. I don't want to make that my bold prediction.
I could say Jose Altuve is going to be
ALCS MVP.
Yeah,
but even that, like, we won't have an answer for the next time we record because when we do our next podcast, that series won't even be over yet. We'll be we'll be watching the game while we're recording. So yeah, this week, man, it was tough. And so I just had the epiphany while we were discussing how tough it was. And I'm going that against Tampa Bay, the Arizona Cardinals, new addition, all day, Adrian Peterson is going to rush for over 100 yards. And I'm even going to throw in that he's going to have 2 touchdowns.
Oh, so you're stacking it up even more with 2 touchdowns. Because before you just said just 100 yards.
I was going just 100 yards, but I'm like, if they give him the ball enough, he's going to get 100 yards. But if he gets 100 yards, he's going to need to get some goal line touches, and so I need to do what the Deshaun Watson did against the Chiefs. I need to pad my stats.
So, I mean, because they definitely don't got no other running back.
They have Andre Ellington.
But he's not even doing anything that you could say, like, all right, he's going to be like the goal line back or...
Yeah, like, and Carson Palmer hasn't been very good. And so I think they're going to rely on Adrian Peterson to pound out the ball. And I think he's going to get the carries, and I think he's going to get the yards, and I think he's going to get the touchdowns, and he's going to look like he's the Adrian Peterson that we thought the Saints were going to get and try to use. But the Saints didn't...
Oh, run him!
Yeah, the Saints didn't adapt. And I think Arians is able to adapt. He realizes that he doesn't have his money quarterback anymore. He doesn't have the deep ball. He has banged up receivers.
He lost his workhorse.
But I think he's a smart enough football coach to realize, shit, we got Adrian Peterson, guys. We're going to give him the ball 25 times. He's going to get us 100 yards.
I hope so, because whatever was happening in New Orleans, it was a joke. And disrespectful to Adrian Peterson. I
didn't like the signing to begin with.
A lot of people said it was a bad sign.
It was a waste of money and waste of time for the Saints, because think about how their season could have started had they just not dealt with trying to get Adrian Peterson adapted and just immediately went with Ingram and Kamara. Because people were already thinking Kamara was going to be their main guy by the end of the season, and it looks like he might be, because that dude is electric. He's
like a Darren Sproles when Reggie Bush was up in there.
Exactly.
But a better runner than Reggie Bush, because Reggie Bush was just more of a pass catch.
He learned how to run between the tackles more, and he's the last guy to run for 1,000 yards with the Lions, so he ended up becoming a good runner. But he had a disappointing career as far as a whole from his days at USC. But yeah, Kamara is your Darren Sproles, and Mark Ingram is your between the tackles guy. And if Sean Payton, the defense has gotten better, and so that's a whole nother story and a whole nother forecast. But the thing is,
it looked like they didn't even try to mix in Adrian Peterson with Mark Ingram.
I think they saw the schedule and they're like, all right, well, we play Minnesota week 1. Let's sign you. Let's play you the first play against Minnesota, and then you won't see the field the rest of your time here. And
only 9 rushing attempts or 8 rushing attempts.
Yeah, it was a waste of time, and I think he's going to bounce back, and I think he's going to do great the rest of the season as long as he doesn't get hurt, and we don't hope for injuries. But that's my bold prediction. What you got?
All right, so again, we were saying it was very difficult.
Are we sticking with the baseball theme of the day? I think...
You know what? Since you switched to the Adrian Peterson, I'll take your original one, which is Texas will beat Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry.
All right. I was leaning that, and I was looking at it, and they're starting the true freshmen, and I think Tom Herman has kind of figured it out. They're coming off of a big overtime win against, I think it was double overtime even, against Kansas State.
Yeah.
In Kansas State, in Manhattan, and it was a big win, and it's 2 in a row. They beat Iowa State the week before,
and Oklahoma lost to Iowa State, and Texas beat Iowa State.
Yeah. So I've watched this game for a long time, dating back to Major Applewhite and Ricky Williams, Cedric Benson, Colton Case McCoy, Vince Young. So there's a lot of bad blood between the two, and it's one of the most electric atmospheres you'll ever see. I've always wanted to go. I just have never made time to go up to Dallas to watch it. It's on a neutral site. Crowd split 50-50 on the State Fair grounds. Big techs outside the stadium.
Oh no, yeah, it's a big event when it comes to the
anything can happen. Anything. It's
the one thing that I know for sure, Oklahoma's always known during the season to give up those 1-2 games.
So UT beating OU is a bold prediction because on paper you
just think Oklahoma all the way.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing against Iowa State. Like, nobody expect Iowa State. Or even tonight, Syracuse upsetted Clemson.
And, but that's a different story because they were dealing with injuries on Clemson's side and
hey, but you're ranked number 2.
Yeah,
you should have that next man step up mentality when you're ranked number 2 in the country.
Yeah, and as a Texas kid and as a UT fan, I sure hope that your prediction comes out right because I would love to watch UT beat OU because it hasn't happened much.
It was either go with that or I just say Astros sweep the Yankees and then like
that's not really a bold prediction. It's already gonna happen.
It's like what else could I go off on? Like there was not much I could have gone off because basketball season hasn't started yet.
Well, I think we found some bold predictions that we like. We discussed, some of the guys and some of the teams that had good and bad weeks. Good recap of Major Leagues, playoffs.
It's going to be exciting.
Let's finish up this episode. Thank you to those of you still with us for listening. This has been the Bench Warmers podcast. It has just been me, myself, Casey Coggins, here with Alvin Hebert, missing our third wheel, Andrew Lira.
We're not a tripod today.
No tripod today. So we'll see you next week. Signing off.